3% identify as either independents, 45%, or, and this is a high number historically, 8% identify as Democrats. For some context here, in 2016, the last competitive Republican primary, presidential primary in New Hampshire, the electorate was 55% Republican. It was 42% independent, and it was 3% Democratic. So in this initial wave, you're seeing some significant differences from 2016. We asked folks coming into the polls,
So there you go. The exit polls show that it doubled. The Democrat votes doubled since the 2016 GOP primary. So yeah, that's how Nikki is going to try to cheat. She's going to get as many non-Republicans as she can to vote for her. We've got so much to get to today. I do want to talk about Tucker Carlson leaving this phone message for Justin Trudeau. It cracked me up. He left a prank call for Justin Trudeau via the press office, and he left a voicemail, and he said, "We're coming to liberate Canada." And get ready, folks, buckle up to pay more taxes, because this carbon tax is probably one of the most evil forms of government extortion, because they're going to charge you for simply existing. Yes. So there could be a carbon tax coming to the USA. Okay. I think that England already did this, but now it's coming to the USA, and the Senate's kind of serious about it. There's a committee, and they're trying to get the Senate to push through a carbon tax. Then we're going to talk about Kamala Harris. And she said that we can solve the border crisis. Wow, the border czar. She finally came out and said that she's got a solution. Okay, what's her solution? She said we can solve the border crisis we created, by the way, with a pathway to citizenship. So all of that and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. Let's get into it. 2022 was the first year that Canada did not make the top 10 in an annual study on worldwide freedom, by the way. So Canadians, they are arguably losing more and more civil liberties at an alarming rate. We know that in 2022, there was this annual study, and Canada, that was the first year where they did not make the top 10 in this annual study done on worldwide freedom, who has the most civil liberties. And that's why Tucker Carlson left this phone message for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Ha ha! This is a prank call. And Justin Trudeau got this voicemail from Tucker. And this voicemail was to let, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau know that Tucker will be freeing the Canadians from the constraints of living under big government. So let's take a listen to Tucker's voicemail. Here we go.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
That was an incredible clip of Tucker Carlson leaving a voicemail for the Prime Minister. And according to the Post Millennial, we've got this epic prank call, and Carlson actually calls the Canadian press office there, and he leaves the message. He says, "This is Tucker Carlson from the United States, and I'd be grateful if you'd pass a message to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada, and we'll be there soon. Merci." Thank you. So he will be going to Canada to produce a show with Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith is a conservative Canadian politician. And the interesting thing here, folks, is that progressives, they have a completely different view of freedom than the rest of the population, who just isn't so naive, to be quite frank. We're just not naive. Okay. Progressives, they don't believe in things like individual rights. Conservatives, you and me, we believe in individual rights, whereas progressives don't. They don't believe in individual rights. The left, they want something called a nanny state, while the right, we want limited government. But unfortunately, Canada, they hardly have what you would call limited. Okay, they have a very oppressive big government. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he used Canada's Emergency Act for the second time in the nation's history outside of war. The first official use was actually done by his daddy, Trudeau. So Pierre Trudeau, he used the Canada's Emergency Act, and he did this during a period of war. And really, Pierre Trudeau, he did that in in the hope of killing any livelihood in the people who disagreed with him. Okay, so he wanted to kill the livelihoods of the people who disagreed with him. The Emergencies Act is meant to suspend human rights so that way the commoners, they don't get in the way of the will of the government. That's what the Emergency Act is all about. And the funny thing is that human rights, they're not something that can be taken away. You've got Pierre Trudeau, you've got Justin Trudeau trying to use this Emergencies Act to take away human rights, and that's just something that can't be taken away, because the difference between conservatives and progressives, they think that they are God and believe it's up to them to decide what the public can and can't do. Any rights are afforded by the nanny state, by the government, while conservatives believe that those rights are given by God and you're born with those rights. Conservatives we believe, rights are inalienable, while progressives see them as more of a privilege, if that. Okay. And that's what makes the US so great, so unique compared to any other place in the world. The US is the only country in the world to be born out of the idea that men are all free. All men are free. It's the only country built on that idea, and people are born with rights, and the government does not give you those rights. Rather than, an elected official is just somebody who's a public servant who protects those freedoms and protects your freedoms. That's it. That they can't take away. But in Canada, things are a little bit different. Although it's not the worst country to be stuck in, I'm sure there's a push by officials to de facto turn the government into God. Officials like Justin Trudeau, they want to turn the government into God. And that's a very, very scary thought. That said, I am glad to live in America where at least I know I'm free, to quote the song. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about New Hampshire, the exit polling, because wow, a majority of those voters in the Republican primary last night were not Republican. He still totally beat Nikki Haley in that primary. But Nikki Haley was cheating. She was getting as many non-Republicans to show up and vote for her. It doubled. In the 2016 election, I played that clip for you. The number was 3% of Democrats came out to vote in the GOP primary. Okay, so that's kind of normal. It tripled. Okay, it's at 8%. The exit polling was showing that 8% of Democrats showed up for the GOP primary. So that's interesting. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, are you going to pay more in taxes? Carbon tax. They're going to try to tax you for simply existing. Make no mistake. I'm back next on The Buzz. Good morning. Hey, welcome to the Morning Buzz. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. I'm back in just a little bit. Student partied for 4 days. Okay, Kat, why is this newsworthy? A bullet was in his brain, and it took him 4 days before realizing he had actually been shot in the head. So he's a Brazilian student. I find this a story to be really peculiar and odd. And I just had to share it with you. So we're going to get to that story here coming up in just a couple of minutes. The carbon tax, is it coming to the US? We're going to answer that question. It's in committee right now, and they are like seriously considering this in the United States. So we're going to be back. Smash the like button if you're watching. Hold on one sec. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can find me there. And look, Democrats voting in a GOP primary, it's just a recipe for results that don't actually reflect the GOP at all. Arresting people for saying our elections are rigged seems like a horrible way to convince people our elections aren't rigged. Right? So they've arrested Donald Trump because he simply says that the elections are rigged. And look, I'm just saying, if you arrest people for saying things like that, that's a horrible way of trying to convince people that our elections aren't rigged. And, Nikki Haley's out there trying to rig the election by getting as many non Republicans as she can to vote for her. And it's just factual. There were triple the amount of Democrats that usually show up uh, for the GOP primary this last go around, the New Hampshire primary last night. Trump won handedly. I mean, he was up like by 10%. So it wasn't that big of a deal. And he said, let Nikki do her thing. But still, it bothers me that she was trying to cheat. Um, and what bothered me last night, I caught a little bit of Fox News, and I was like, wait a second, they're really pushing for Nikki Haley. If you tuned into Fox News at all last night, they were pushing for Nikki Haley to be the vice president to Donald Trump. No, absolutely not. Who do you want for VP? I would love Vivek Ramaswamy. That's my personal pick. If you have an opinion, throw it into the comment section on YouTube. You can also throw me a text or shoot me a text message. That's 309-451-9299. Who do you want for VP? We've got so much to hit this morning. A little bit later, we've got to visit Kamala Harris's comments because she says that we can solve the border crisis. Whew! Thank goodness. The border czar, she is on it, folks. Now she wants to solve the border crisis that they've created with a pathway to citizenship. Wait a second. I think that this is de facto just opening up the border, and this is an invitation for people to come in. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. A carbon tax coming to the U.S. Oh boy. This is one of the most evil forms of government extortion because they're charging you for simply existing. A carbon tax is a forced fee, and it's so anti-human. And the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, right here in the United States, they sent a recommendation for the government, for the Senate, to begin a study on how this tax could control the weather. Okay, so according to the Daily Signal this week, Congress took a step toward passing a carbon tax, an inflationary regressive tax on all products that would lower economic growth, make all Americans worse off, and disproportionately harm poor people, farmers, and small businesses. Politicians have rightly rejected carbon taxes in the past, and they should continue to do so. They've tried this before, folks, but on January 18th, okay, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, they voted to send a proposed law to the full Senate that would require the federal government to conduct a study calculating the carbon emissions of a broad range of different products made right here in the country, in America and other countries. So they want to conduct a study on these products, see how much carbon they emit, and then based on how much carbon they emit, these products, they're going to tax those products differently than the ones who or the products that don't emit that much carbon. So these products can include things like construction materials, plastics, and fertilizers. All vital. These are all vital products to businesses, corporations that power this economy, the American economy. Okay. The bill's proponents say that they're responding to carbon taxes they've done in Europe. So in Europe, they've actually implemented a carbon tax and they implemented it in 2024. This has been going on in Europe. So now the US is kind of happen into the bandwagon or happen on the bandwagon and they want to have something like a carbon tax. Don't you just love how the government is always finding more and more ways to take sums of our income? They want to take your income, and I guess inflation isn't enough to please their authoritarian, narcissistic nature. Okay, I guess inflation isn't enough. Uh, they need to tax our breath. Your very breath and existence generates carbon. These people are idiots. Carbon is essential in both human life and on nearly everything on this planet. Okay, it is essential. Carbon is essential. The left is a literal death cult. They hate everything about humanity, and they think that we'd be better off if we just stopped existing. Okay, why else would they hate one of the most essential gases that keeps us alive? Carbon keeps us alive. We need it. They're total monsters. They are monsters. Okay, I do have to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to continue talking about carbon and this carbon tax and just how close it is to becoming law, where it's like going to be a law passed by the Senate for sure. Because the Senate, the Democrats hold the majority, and then they're going to conduct a study. Okay, so just right now it's a study, and they're going to take a look at all of these different products, fertilizers, construction materials, and they're going to see how much carbon it emits, and then they're going to put numbers to it. Now, a law that would I guess it would probably have to pass both houses in order for them to implement some sort of carbon tax on the country. But we'll have to see. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. Then we're going to talk about Kamala Harris calling for a meaningful pathway to citizenship yesterday. Amid efforts by President Joe Biden and congressional leadership, they're trying to reach a bipartisan national security deal. Get this, they want to fund the border. Okay, obviously Republicans want to fund the border, and we want to fund law enforcement agencies down there. But then also in bipartisan deal, the Democrats actually want to unlock military aid for Ukraine. So they're trying to reach some sort of middle ground on this. But we'll talk about it here coming up on the Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. And subscribe to my YouTube channel today. That's Cat Peterson 99. Good morning. Go ahead and smash the like button. We're back in just about 10 seconds. We're going to talk about how Chuck Schumer is demanding a ban on Zyn. Do you know what Zyn is? So, of course, if we love it here in America, it's going to be banned by the Democrats. And Zyn is getting way too popular, so it was just a matter of time for this rule to go into effect. But if there's anything Americans enjoy, the progressives seek to destroy it, to ban it, and Chuck Schumer is coming to take away your upper deckies. So that's Zyn, and I'll explain what Zyn is if you're not too sure. But smash the like button, share this out with your friends. Zyn was getting way too popular. It's only a matter of time before this rule. It was only a matter of time before this rule was going to get, it was going to be taken into or go into effect. Okay, so if there's anything Americans enjoy, there's some progressive out there who wants to ban it. Okay, so if there's anything that we enjoy, progressives just want to ban it. And Chuck Schumer, he's coming along to take your upper deckies away, and I'm talking about Zyn. These are like little pouches that you chew on to get your nicotine fix without having to smoke cigarettes or look like a complete idiot vaping, right? I don't get the vape thing. I also don't get the Zyn thing. I don't know. When I was smoking, I was always doing like tobacco cigarettes, and I was doing like cigars and chewing tobacco a little bit. I was never really into the whole nicotine thing. So I don't get the Zyn thing. I've never got the vaping thing. I was really not into the whole nicotine thing. I did smoke a little bit, but quit. Quit. And I don't know, maybe Zyn helps to get people to quit, but they're going after Zyn. Chuck Schumer wants to ban it. And we're going to talk about that here coming up in just a little bit. But before we took the break, I was telling y'all about this carbon tax and how it's coming to the United States. They've already implemented a carbon tax for 2024 in Europe. Don't you just love how the government is finding more and more ways to take away your income? I guess inflation wasn't enough to please their authoritarian, narcissistic nature. Okay, now they want to tax the very breath I breathe and my existence. Okay, my existence generates carbon, and carbon is essential for both human life and nearly everything on the planet. It's essential. It's an essential gas. And I was telling you that the left is literally a death cult. They hate everything about humanity, and they think it'd be better if we all just cease to exist, or we stay in our little pods and we don't move, and we exist that way. But why else? If they didn't hate humanity, why else would they hate one of the most essential gases that keeps us alive? Carbon. What total monsters. And they want to tax fertilizers. They want to tax construction materials. These are vital to the operations of small businesses and farmers. We cannot eat now without the left trying to say that we're causing way too many 75-degree days or 85-degree days. Oh gosh, you know, we fertilizers used to help us eat. Okay, farmers use fertilizers. We use it to eat, and now the left is trying to say that hey, eating, you're causing way too many 75-degree days, and we don't like it. Eating is now evil because it might cause the wind to blow a different direction or the opposite direction of what the government demands or what the government prefers the wind blow. Okay, so taxing carbon is de facto taxing everything. But no matter how much money we fork over to the Washington bureaucracy, folks, they will never be able to stop climate change. The climate is always changing. These people are incredibly naive. It's painful. Uh, they have yet to define what their perfect utopia, what the perfect example of the utopia they have arbitrarily set in their minds is. They have not laid that out for us. What is the utopia that you have arbitrarily set in your mind? I don't know what you want. You have to say and detail out what kind of utopia you want. I have yet to see evidence that taxing people's existence would do much of anything to prevent the Midwest from having another snowstorm. Okay, taxing people's breath, taxing the fertilizer that we use for our food. How is that going to prevent the Midwest from having another snowstorm? But the left doesn't care when it comes to the burden of proof. Okay, they don't care about these little things like the burden of proof. You need some proof to prove. If you're going to tax people's existence, then you need some proof that this is going to affect or change the direction of the wind. Okay, and they have yet to provide that. Progressives, they also they do this thing where they create the problem and they magically have these solutions, and they're the ones tasked with saving the day. Okay, so I've got to shift gears here, and I want to talk about Kamala Harris, and it kind of deals with this finding solutions to a self-imposed crisis, making up everybody worse off. Everybody is just worse off when they come up with these solutions to their self-imposed crisis, and that's the case with the border. Progressives, they create the massive problem, then they magically swoop in, they save the day uh, with their solutions for their self-imposed crises, and these solutions just wind up making everybody worse off. So de facto open borders. When we have de facto open borders, the White House refuses to let states even attempt to stop the influx of migrants or the influx of incentivized migrants. Let me be clear about that, because these migrants wouldn't be coming here if they weren't incentivized. When you stop and you attempt to stop the influx, you don't let the states attempt to stop this influx with things like razor wire, things like more border patrol agents. You know, that's the Supreme Court 5-4 decision. They said that they can't, or they can't stop the federal agents from coming through and cutting the razor wire that the Texas officials put up. Okay, so they are stopping. The White House refuses to let the states attempt to stop this influx of incentivized migrants. And we have Biden's alien invasion. Biden's alien invasion. That's what this is. This is an invasion of our country, and we can't have progressives problems without progressive solutions. So it steps in. This is why affirmative action pick Vice President Kamala Harris has said that she wants a pathway to citizenship and how we should fix the border crisis. That was 100% preventable, like day one. This has been preventable day one. Shut down the border, build the border wall, turn people around, say go home, you're not welcome here. Okay, that's how you fix the border crisis. But that it's all been 100% preventable, and she wants to come in, swoop in with her magical solution, and that's a pathway to citizenship. So, Vice President Kamala Harris, she called for a meaningful pathway to citizenship on Monday night amid efforts by Joe Biden and congressional leadership. They're trying to reach this national security deal. Okay, it's a bipartisan national security deal, and in this deal, there is funding for law enforcement agents and for Border Patrol agents, but also they've coupled that with unlocking military aid for Ukraine. So if you're a Republican and you're in this congressional leadership, you look at this bill, you're like, okay, we want to address the border crisis, but I also don't want to spend money on Ukraine. But my hands are tied. We're trying to get this pushed through, and these two bills are coupled together. So that's kind of what they're trying to reach a deal on right now. And, Kevin McCarthy said he was going to stop that kind of nonsense, but he didn't. And I have yet to see Speaker Mike Johnson stop this kind of nonsense with these two issue spending bills. We should be looking at one issue at a time, not coupling these issues into one bill. Anyway, so during the interview on CNN with Laura Coates, Kamala Harris, the affirmative action pick, she discussed the situation at the US-Mexico border and referred to it as a long-standing problem. For goodness sakes, the border has never been this bad. Never. What a total clown show. She says that this has been a long-standing problem. This has never been this bad. The issue at the border is a Joe Biden problem. Okay. A Biden administration problem. This is a total clown show. She's even trying to act as if this has been the status quo for decades, this invasion at the border. It's not. This has not been the status quo. But anyway, she goes on in this interview and she says, there's no question that our immigration system is broken. And she said, and so much so that the first bill that we offered after our inauguration was to fix the immigration system, which included that we must do, or what we must do to create a pathway for citizenship and put the resources that are needed at the border. But sadly, people on the other side of the aisle have been playing politics with this issue. And then she goes on, she says the solution includes putting resources at the border to do what we can to process people effectively and put into place laws that allow a meaningful pathway to citizenship. So this is everything that she said on CNN. And look, how is that de facto not an invitation? Okay, this is not a like this is an invitation. She said we're offering you a pathway to or a meaningful pathway to citizenship. She said that as long as you make it to the southern border, the authorities will process you on a way to citizenship. But they're not doing that. Okay, so she says that that's happening, but that's not happening. That's about as logical as telling people to not pay rent and giving them rights to that property. So I've got to take a quick break. We're going to come back, talk about the border issue, talk about Kamala Harris's comments. Then there's this story in Illinois. A Palestinian activist and devout Muslim has been charged with 3 counts of murder in killing his wife and his 3 daughters in Tinley Park, Illinois. So got that story for you. Come back after the break. So find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel today. Subscribe today. We've got so much to talk about this morning. Chuck Schumer, he's going after Zyn. So do you know what Zyn is? It's like nicotine that you can chew on. And it's like getting a nicotine fix without having to smoke cigarettes or vaping and looking like a complete idiot. But I don't really get the Zyn thing. I was always a cigarette person. I stopped smoking, obviously, after getting COVID-19. It freaked me out a little bit, and I was like, better turn my life around. Then I started running, and I gave up the cigarettes. But I never got. I don't think I was really in it for the nicotine. I like tobacco. I kind of like chewing tobacco, but Zyn, they are looking to ban it. Chuck Schumer wants to come along, and come over and take your upper deckies away. Okay, your upper decky. Um, lower deck is when you put it like in your jawline here at the bottom of your, like in your bottom, like between your bottom teeth and like your lip, and then your upper deck is between your top teeth and your upper lip. So an upper decky. If you guys didn't know, but Tucker Carlson, actually, I didn't know about upper deckies. I've never, even when I chewed tobacco, I'd never used an upper decky. I just kind of put it right here, in the lower deck, as you would say. But Carlson, he loves Zins. He has the Zins have the stamp of approval of Tucker Carlson, so they can't be all that bad, right? Chuck Schumer, he does not approve though, and he wants to ban these nicotine pouches. See, and I knew this was going to happen because anytime somebody likes something, the progressives, they want to ban it. Okay, anytime Americans enjoy something, they'll turn around and they'll ban it and they'll get rid of it. So it was only a matter of time until this ban came into effect. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Before I took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about Kamala Harris and what she said on CNN. She says that there needs to be a meaningful pathway to citizenship. So I was saying, look, that is an invitation. So the Biden administration and Joe Biden's VP affirmative action pick, they are still inviting people to the border. Okay, so she said that as long as you make it to the southern border, authorities will process you on the way to citizenship. So you will have a clear path, a meaningful pathway to citizenship as long as you get to the southern border. This is about as logical as saying that, hey, you know what, you don't need to pay rent, and I'm going to give you full rights to the property. Okay, that's about as logical as this gets. You don't tell somebody that you're a landlord, right? You don't say, "Hey, you don't have to pay me rent, but I'm going to give you full rights to the property. You get to stay here." That doesn't happen, okay? And it shouldn't happen. But then again, it is happening in California right now, but that shouldn't surprise us either. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. Since when does showing up grant you citizenship? That used to be something people worked for. Why not just grant the entire world citizenship at this point? That's basically how logical that policy is. Kamala Harris, she says, hey, as long as you get, she says the solution includes putting resources at the border to do what we can to process people effectively and putting in place laws that allow for a meaningful pathway to citizenship. This is de facto an open invitation, and it's just going to get worse, the border situation. But we know how asinine she is. We know she's stupid, which is why none of this is surprising, and it shouldn't surprise you. It doesn't surprise me. When you have a vice president who is chosen based on nothing but nothing to do with competence, you end up with an extremely incompetent official who has trouble putting sentences together. It's truly baffling, to say the least, at the very least, that it's baffling that she got into this position. But like I said, she's the affirmative action pick. And this is the kind of stuff that we get because she lacks competence, and she was chosen based on everything to do but competence. Okay, everything outside of competence. She was chosen for that. So I'm back next. We're going to talk a little bit about an Illinois story, plus Chuck Schumer trying to do away with Zyn pouches. That's next. Good morning. Hey, welcome to the Morning Buzz. If you're watching, smash the like button. And I would like to chat a little bit about the Zin. Chuck Schumer is demanding a ban on Zin, and this creates a powerful new enemy for the Democrats. So the frat guys, they're going to mobilize, and they are probably going to come out in numbers to vote against the Democrats on this, even though they probably weren't, they probably were the most, or like the most unlikely group of voters out there. So I'm excited, kind of. Chuck Schumer kind of destroyed the Democrats, made a new enemy for the Democrats single-handedly. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Plus, there was a story in Illinois that I want to hit real quick. I don't know much about it, but I'll give you the details. It's Tinley Park. It was a Palestinian activist and devout Muslim, and he was charged with 3 counts of murder in the killing of his wife and 3 daughters in Tinley Park. So this is a crazy story, but we'll also talk about this guy. He was a frat guy, kind of a partier, and it's kind of interesting. This college student thought he was hit in the head with a rock, but he thought wrong. He was actually shot, and there was a bullet in his brain for a whole 4 days before he decided to go get things checked out. So it's kind of a crazy story. Thought I'd bring it here to the buzz. Um, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Oh, Nikki Haley. Oh, Nikki Haley. Ugh. So she came out and she found all kinds of non-Republicans to vote for her, and that's how Nikki Haley was trying to cheat. Now, of course, Donald Trump handedly won last night. I think he got like 54% and she got like 45%. So he beat her by like 10 percentage points. Okay, 10% of the vote. And New Hampshire exit polling, though, I do need to tell you this. It shows that a majority of these voters in the Republican primary last night were not Republicans. So Nikki Haley got all kinds of non-Republicans to go vote for her. And if you look at the numbers, I think it was like 3% of Democrats came out to vote in the 2016 GOP primary. And then you compare that to this year's primary, and it's it's 8%. So 3% to 8%. That's nearly triple the amount of Democrats who showed up to vote in a GOP primary. Only Republicans should be allowed to vote in GOP primary. Democrats voting, it's just silly, and really it's a recipe for results that don't reflect the GOP at all. And I think it's kind of funny, we're arresting people for saying elections are rigged. They arrested they want to convict Donald Trump because he said elections are rigged and he believes the 2020 election was stolen. I believe the 2020 election was stolen. Okay. People are out there arresting people because they have questions about the election and they say that elections are rigged. Okay. And, you know, I think that arresting people for saying that elections are rigged is a horrible way to try to convince people that elections aren't rigged. Why are you arresting people for just simply saying elections are rigged? It's a terrible way to try to convince me that they're not rigged. Okay, I'm just saying. So we're going to talk about the primary here this hour. But before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about Chuck Schumer. He's trying to ban Zin. We're going to get to that here in about 5 minutes. But before I do get to that story, this is kind of a funny story. And partying is not all that uncommon in the college experience. Okay. For many students, the pursuit of pleasure is one of the most important things. And a lot of the time, people end up in risky situations. Okay. So that's just college. It wasn't really my college experience. I was too busy hitting the books and working to pay off the massive college debt. But some kids, they get to go college and have this partying experience. And they wind up in a lot of risky situations. A college student thought that he was hit in the head with a rock. Yes, he thought wrong though, because he was actually shot and a bullet was stuck in his brain for 4 whole days before he decided to go get things checked out. So he's a Brazilian student. I found this to be the craziest story. And he just continued partying for 4 days without realizing he had been shot in the head with a bullet lodged in his brain. Okay, so according to Messenger, this is a news outlet, Mateus Facio, that's his name, the kid, was not about to let something like a gunshot wound stop him from partying like any self respecting college student his age. Problem is, Mateus had no idea he had been shot and that there was a stray bullet lodged in his head until 4 hangover inducing days later. So he was hungover, drinking a lot. He was a college student. So on December 31st, 2023, said he was on a beach. It wasn't too far from Rio de Janeiro. And he was hit in the head pretty hard with a rock, what he thought was a rock. He said he was on the beach and he thought a flying rock hit him in the head. He heard an explosion, but since the bleeding didn't last long, he decided to shower it off and party the night away. So he did bleed, but he showered off the blood and he continued to party. The following day, he drove 200 miles to meet his family and friends, and it took him about 7 hours. And he said that he felt fine during the trip. The real question is here, when I read that, I was like, wait a second, 200 miles? It took you 7 hours to drive 200 miles? But it's unclear why it took him 7 hours. And on January 3rd, he woke up and he was unable to move his arm. So 4 whole days after he got hit in the head with a rock, he woke up one day and he couldn't move his arm. I could feel my fingers moving, but it seemed like I didn't have the confidence to pick something up. So he could feel his fingers moving and had like feeling, but he couldn't really like lift his arm and he couldn't pick things up with his hand. So he experienced some convulsions, muscle spasms, and then he decided to go get checked out. Part of it had penetrated his brain. The bullet. This is what the neurosurgeon said. This caused compression of the region and involuntary movements of his arm. So, wow. So just a few millimeters, it could have caused some serious damage. That's what the neurosurgeon said. Having your arm paralyzed or half of your side paralyzed. It was risky, very risky for the patient. We believe that in about 20, 30 days, he'll continue with his normal life. So it was a very risky procedure to unlodge this bullet from his brain. But he posted like a photo on January 2nd of himself on his Instagram, and he like looked totally fine. But there was a bullet in his head in that post. So that's pretty unsettling. Police, they're currently trying to figure out who shot the kid, but best chances of them figuring this one out is slim to none. Okay, so they have no idea who shot the kid. Fortunately, he should be back to normal in less than 30 days, and I'm sure he's going to be back at it with his classmates at the pubs and drinking. I just found this story bizarro. What? How did you not know you were shot in the head? And it's not like he's got super long hair, folks. Like me, if I got shot in the head, maybe because I got pretty long hair. I don't know if I like wipe the blood away and I'm like kind of sore. Uh, but this guy has pretty short hair. I don't know how he didn't know, how he didn't feel it. I don't know. But also the booze probably had something to do with him not realizing he was shot in the head. Okay, so do want to switch gears here because Chuck Schumer demanding this ban on Zyn. I don't think he realizes that this is going to create a powerful, powerful new enemy for Democrats. This is basically, going to cause a Zinsurrection. Zinsurrection. The frat guys are not going to be happy, and they're going to mobilize, and they're going to come out in numbers against the Democrats, I bet. Zyn was getting way too popular, so it was only a matter of time before they enacted some sort of ban like this, and this rule went into effect. If Americans enjoy something, there's a progressive somewhere who wants to ban it. Okay. Now Chuck Schumer is coming along and he's taking away the upper deckies. So Zyn pouches, they're something you chew on. It's like dip, but nicotine. Now I used to smoke cigarettes, and I don't get the whole Zyn thing. I don't get the whole vaping thing, but it's probably because I was never much of a Nick gal. I didn't like it for the nicotine. I liked the tobacco. And that's why I preferred like cigars and dip. I was really never into like nicotine, the nicotine part of it. But anyway, you can get your Nick fix and you don't have to smell like a cigarette. And you can just put the Zyn pouch into your mouth and you get your fix of nicotine that way. And actually, Tucker Carlson, he has a stamp of approval on these things. He actually really likes these things that you get at the gas station. I've seen him. Not Chuck Schumer, though. No, 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 no. Chuck Schumer hates these things. And he's actually shown a proven bigotry against the fellas, against the frat boys, because the frat boys love Zen for some odd reason. I don't understand it, but they go crazy over it. And Chuck Schumer, this is not the first time he has gone after the fellas, the frat boys. In 2010, he actually tried to ban Four Locos. Now, Four Locos, they're crazy. It's a very high alcoholic content drink. So Chuck Schumer's out there. He says the pouch is packed with problems, high levels of nicotine. So today he's delivering a warning to parents because these nicotine pouches seem to lock their sights on young teenagers, kids, and even lower, like young children. And they see it on social media and they get hooked. So let's take a listen to the clip here of Chuck Schumer trying to ban this. Here we go. Let's see if I can pull this up. Here we go.
Crack down on a product called Zen. He says the nicotine pouches pose a danger to teens as they use them as an alternative to e-cigarettes.
Pouch packed with problems, high levels of nicotine. So today I'm delivering a warning to parents because these nicotine pouches seem to lock their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and then use the social media to hook them.
Senator Schumer is urging the FTC and the FDA to investigate Zen for concerns relating to marketing and health effects. We reached out to Zen for comment, but have not yet heard back. Majority Leader Chuck.
Gosh, I hate Chuck Schumer. He's the worst. Think about the children. Think about the children. Even though his party does not think about children when it comes to stealing sports scholarships from girls and allowing transgender men into their locker rooms. So his party does not think about the children when it comes to girls seeing a grown man naked in their locker room. No. His party doesn't think about children when they force teens out of their school during the day to make room for illegal immigrants. No. They also don't think about children. His party, the Democrats, don't think about children because they kill them at 9 months while they're in the womb. So, the comments about Zen being marketed to children and to teens is a bunch of crap. Okay, I know this. Zen isn't marketed at all, really. I never see any kind of marketing for it, except on social media. It's a bunch of bros, it's a bunch of the fellas, the frat boys over the age of 18 talking about it a lot on social media. Okay, that's what they do. They talk about it on social media. So that's not really marketing. It's just grown men talking about something on social media that they like. But again, Americans like it. Democrats have to ban it. Schumer doesn't realize that he's made an enemy here. And I've got to talk about that here coming up in just a little bit. Chuck Schumer has made an enemy for the Democrats in just, just a small phrase, banning Zen. You are creating an enemy for the Democrats there, Chuck. And I don't think you realize that you've created an enemy, but this could have been one of the dumbest things Schumer has done. He created a new group of voters who already hate politicians, but now they're mobilized and they're a bunch of insurrectionists. I'm back next on The Buzz. Good morning, friends. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Share this out with your friends. Kamala Harris, can we solve the border crisis that we created? Yes, we're going to create a pathway to citizenship. Really, this is an open invitation. What Kamala Harris said here is, hey, if you can make it to the southern border, we're going to have people there and resources there to process you, and we're going to give you a pathway to citizenship. This is so illogical. It doesn't make any sense because essentially, I mean, think about it. It's the same thing as saying, hey, you know what? You don't have to pay rent, but I'm going to give you all of the property rights to this apartment and you get to stay here rent free. It's totally fine. That's basically the logic we're working with here. And, we shouldn't be too shocked because Kamala Harris is an affirmative action pick. She is not competent. And we shouldn't be shocked when incompetent people do incompetent things. And we're back now, and I'm going to finish up my Zinn story. Chuck Schumer trying to ban that, and I don't think he understands that he screwed himself here. This is possibly the dumbest thing that Chuck Schumer has ever done. He's created a new group of voters who already hate politicians, by the way, and now they're mobilized. Okay, these frat bros are about ready to make the violent 2020 BLM riots look like mostly peaceful January 6th protests, the mostly peaceful January 6th protests. Okay, so these Zinn bros, they're like frat guys. And they like the nicotine patches, or like the nicotine pouches where you put them in your mouth like a can of dip, right? I mean, you put a little bit of dip in between your teeth and your lower lip. And he claims that Zyn is being marketed to teens and kids. That's a bunch of crap. That's not true. Zyn is never marketed. It hasn't been marketed. That's the beauty of Zyn. It's because there's no marketing really surrounding Zyn. That's why I feel obligated to try to explain what Zyn is, because not a lot of people know what Zyn is. It's very targeted because it's just a bunch of frat bros over the age of 18 talking about it on social media. And I've been trying to figure out why on earth would Chuck Schumer, why would he pull this completely brain dead move? Okay, because this is stupid because he's created a new enemy for the Democrats. Number one, there are far, far more pressing matters to attend to, specifically drugs and specifically fentanyl. And Zyn is truly nothing comparatively. Okay, Zyn is nothing in comparison to the fentanyl crisis that we've got going on, the open border crisis, the open invitation from our VP, our affirmative action VP, Kamala Harris, where she essentially said, hey, if you can make it to the southern border, we're going to process you and we're going to give you a pathway to citizenship. That's openly invited. I mean, at this point, just give citizenship to the whole world. Okay, we've got far more pressing matters to attend to. The fentanyl crisis is ridiculous. I went into a laundromat, and in the vending machine, you've got, what is it called? It's the thing that it gets rid of fentanyl. I forget what it's called. Narcan. That's what it is. It's Narcan. So if you overdose on fentanyl, they tell you to shoot up a bunch of Narcan, and they've been giving this stuff out like candy. This is essentially incentivizing people to use fentanyl because there's just a case of Narcan, a vending machine away, and you can use the Narcan to get rid of the fentanyl overdose. Okay, which is just disturbing that our government is doing this. But I actually walked into a laundromat, and in the vending machine there was nothing but Narcan, and you could buy some Narcan for a couple of dollars, which is absolutely insane to me that we're at this point in society. But anyway, far more pressing matters to attend to other than Zyn. Zyn is truly nothing in comparison. Zyn is actually used to get you to stop smoking cigarettes. A lot of these frat boys, these college kids, what they'll do is they will use Zyn pouches to stop themselves from smoking cigarettes or to get off vaping. And one thing that Chuck Schumer doesn't realize here is that he just peeved off a group of voters who likely already didn't like you that much, Chuck. Okay, these people didn't like you already, and you picked the least politically active voters of all time to peeve off. Okay, and I'd say maybe 40% of the Frat vote will be in a presidential election. Now you've made them aware of something that they probably couldn't have given a crap about, a mere 12 hours ago. They care about their zit. Okay, so these low least they're the least politically active voters probably in the country. It's college kids who don't like politicians, and they don't really get involved in the process. They kind of stay out of it. Now they will show up for the presidential election. So you know the only possible explanation is that a pack of Zins. I don't know why he brought this up right now, but the only possible explanation that I can come up with is that he found a pack of Zins in his grandkid's room, and now he's taking it out on America. This is a disgusting way to govern. I don't know why he's attacking Zins, unless it's one of these things where Democrats and progressives, just because Americans like it, they want to ban it. Typically, that's how these things go. That, or, he found a pack of Zins in his grandkid's room and he got upset about it. And now he's taking it out on America, which is not a way to govern there, Chucky. But my question to everyone now is, you know, I wonder if the frat bros are going to confront Joe Biden at the White House. Or confront Joe Biden on the campaign trail when he's being propped up there on the campaign trail and get him to comment about the insurrection. I hope there's a insurrection. I hope there's an uprising about this, and I hope that these very inactive voters become active and are peeved off enough about the Zin ban to show up to the polls and vote for Donald J. Trump, who probably would not be banning Zins and probably wouldn't have even dreamed about it because there's far more pressing matters to attend to. All right, I do have to take a quick break. We're back. Do want to chat a little bit about a story here in Illinois. This man, he's facing murder charges. He was a Palestinian activist and a devout Muslim, and he's been charged with three counts of murders, killing his wife and his three daughters in Tinley Park, Illinois. So kind of close to home. That's next on the Buzz. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, smash that like button. Do it right now. Do it right now and share this out with your normie friends. We're going to come back talking a little bit about a man in Tinley Park. He's charged with 3 counts of murder, killing his wife and his daughters. Now, this guy, he was a Palestinian activist and a devout Muslim. And yeah, I mean, he killed his wife, 53 years old. His daughters, they were 24, and he had 2 25-year-old twins. And they were shot to death in a family home in a town about 30 miles southwest of Chicago. So we'll talk about it here. The family has been described as devout Muslim and Palestinian activists. A story out of Tinley Park, Illinois. Now, that's about 30 miles southwest of Chicago. This is a tragic story, and it doesn't quite add up, and I'm not too sure what this is all about, but I'm going to tell you what I know from the post-millennial Mawar Qasim. Qassem, I think that's his name. He's a Palestinian activist and a devout Muslim, and he's been charged with counts of murder in killing his wife and his 3 daughters in Tinley Park, Illinois. Now, his wife was 53 years old, his daughters 24, and he had 2 25-year-old twins. And they were shot to death in the family home in a town, which is Tinley Park, 30 miles southwest of Chicago. The family has been described as devout Muslims and Palestinian activists. Now, in a press conference, this is the odd part. The police chief, he announced that the authorities, they were working hard to find facts in what has turned out to be a, quote, very complex investigation. He did, however, make a point of noting that the family had never had an interaction with the police prior to the deadly domestic violence incident that police say has resulted in the husband here who killed them all, Qasim. Mawar Qasim is his name, and he was boiled over in a fit of rage. So there was deadly domestic violence incident in Tinley Park. I don't know. It's worth noting that they were all very devout Palestinian activists. And it's interesting that the police chief came out and said that this was a very complex investigation. Seems not very complex to me. It seems like you know that the husband boiled over in a fit of rage and killed his whole family. But what's complex about it? So, more on that once we get some more. I do want to bring this story to you because it's important. The carbon tax, it's probably one of the most evil forms of government extortion because they're trying to tax you for simply existing. We talked a little bit about Zins and how Chuck Schumer wants to ban Zin pouches now. And I told you that Tucker Carlson has given his stamp of approval for the Zin pouches. Tucker has actually come out and said that he uses Zin pouches, but speaking of Tucker, oh my, Tucker Carlson leaving a phone message for Justin Trudeau. So I want to get to that story. 2022, I think it's important to note that Canada did not make the top 10 in the annual study that they do on worldwide freedom. So Canada not doing so well when it comes to freedom. Canadians, they have been arguably losing a lot of their civil liberties at an alarming rate. And that's why Tucker Carlson left Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a voicemail to let him know that he's going to be freeing the Canadians. Well, how is Tucker Carlson going to free the Canadians? Well, he's down there or up there. He's up there making a movie. He's making a film with the conservative Canadian politician Danielle Smith. So they're going to produce a show, and I'd imagine it's going to call attention to the civil liberties that are being lost at an alarming rate in Canada. But here's the voicemail. And Tucker Carlson said that he's going to be freeing Canadians from the constraints of living under big government. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Thank you for your call. You have reached the media line For all urgent requests, please send your request by email. Merci pour votre appel. Vous avez atteint la ligne médiatique. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
We're coming to liberate Canada, and we'll be there soon. Merci. So I love Tucker. The interesting part about this is progressives have a totally different view on freedom than the rest of the population. The rest of the population, I might add, that isn't so naive as progressives are. Conservatives, we believe in individual rights, whereas progressives don't. They don't believe in that sort of thing. The left, they want a nanny state. They want a big government, whereas the right, conservatives, we want limited government. But unfortunately, Canada is hardly what we would call limited government. Trudeau, he actually used Canada's Emergencies Act for only the second time in the nation's history outside of war. Okay, the first time, the first official use of this Emergencies Act, that first official use, it was actually used by his daddy, or his alleged daddy. I think that he's actually the son of Fidel Castro. But anyway, Fidel's baby boy. No, his daddy Pierre Trudeau. He did. He enacted or used this Emergencies Act, and really the reason why he used this Emergencies Act was because he was hoping to kill any kind of livelihood left in the people who disagreed with him. He doesn't like that the people disagree with him, and he used the Emergencies Act, and it was meant to suspend human rights so that way the commoners don't get in the way of the will of the government. That's why he used the Emergencies Act. That's why Justin Trudeau used the Emergencies Act. And look, the funny thing is that human rights are not something that can be taken away. Okay, despite them having this Emergencies Act here in conservative, this is a big difference between conservatives and progressives. Progressives think that they're God and they believe it's up to them to decide what the public can and can't do. Any rights are afforded by the nanny state. While conservatives, we believe rights are given by God and you're born with those rights. Conservatives believe rights are inalienable, while progressives see them as a privilege, if that. And it's what makes the United States so awesome and so unique compared to any other country in the world. The US is the only country in the world to be born out of the idea that all men are free. Okay, the United States is so unique in that way, and we're the only country built on the idea that people are born with the rights, and that the government does not give you those rights, rather than any elected official in any kind of capacity, whether that be the dog catcher or the president. They are simply a public servant meant to protect those freedoms. That's it. And that's what we believe. But in Canada, things are a lot different. Now, it's not the worst country, but I would say that officials are turning government into God, and that's a very scary thought. And all I can say is that I am glad I live in America, where at least I know I'm free. For now. uh, this next story is going to baffle you. It's going to baffle you. It's disturbing. There's a carbon tax, okay? And the United States Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, they've sent out a recommendation to the government to begin a study on how this tax could control the weather, the climate, and combat climate change. So we're going to chat about that here coming up in just a little bit. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We'll be right back. morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Man, it's pouring out there. But at least it's warm. At least it's warm. I drove in today and the car said 36 degrees. Don't call it a heat wave. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. You can always text me at 309-451-9299. Before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about the evil Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. So this carbon tax is probably one of the most evil forms of governmental extortion because really what it boils down to, it's charging you for simply existing. Carbon tax is just charging you. It's a forced fee and it's anti-human. And the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee has sent a recommendation for the government to begin a study on how to tax, how this tax is going to control the weather. Okay, so that's what this study is all about. We're going to spend a bunch of money on this study. Tale as old as time. So anyway, this week, Congress took a step toward passing this carbon tax. Now, this is an inflationary regressive tax on all products that would lower economic growth, make all Americans worse off, and disproportionately harm poor people, farmers, and small businesses. That's what they say. Politicians have rightly rejected carbon taxes in the past, and they should continue to do so. Now, they're talking about all of these products, and they say that these products lower economic growth, that these products are terrible for Americans, and that they harm poor people, farmers, and small businesses, which just isn't true. On January 18th, we have the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. They got together, they voted to send a proposal or a proposed law to the full Senate. Okay, that would require the federal government to conduct a study calculating the carbon emissions of a broad range of different products. Now, all of these products are going to be made in either America or other countries. Now, these products include things like construction materials, plastics, fertilizers, all things vital for small businesses and corporations that power the economy. So it's the opposite of what they say about these products. They say these products lower economic growth and that these products make Americans worse off and that these products disproportionately harm people. That's just not true. Or disproportionately harm people and farmers, poor people and farmers and small businesses. That's just not true. So the bill's proponents, they say that they're responding to the carbon taxes that have already been implemented in Europe. So Europe decided to implement something like a carbon tax, or they implemented a carbon tax in 2024 this year. And they've implemented that. So now they're trying to model our carbon tax after Europe's. Now, don't you just love how the government is always finding more and more and more ways to take sums of your income? I guess inflation wasn't enough for their authoritarian, narcissistic butts. Okay, inflation's not enough to please their authoritarian, narcissistic nature. So they have to come after your income in a different way, and that's in the form of a carbon tax. Your breath, your existence, your existence generates carbon. Carbon is essential for human life and everything else on the planet. Okay, and the left literally is a death cult. They hate everything about humanity, and they think it'd be better if you just stopped existing. Yes, this is why they're pro-abortion, they're anti-human. And why else would they hate one of the most essential gases that keep us alive? Carbon keeps us alive, period. And they hate carbon. They want zero carbon. Isn't that creepy how they say we're achieving for zero carbon emissions? That's bizarre. And these people are total monsters. They want to tax the fertilizers. Okay, so that's something that emits carbon. And here's a little thing. Here's a secret. Fertilizers keep us fed. We cannot eat without the left telling us that we're causing these 75-degree days. Okay, eating is now evil because, oh boy, if you eat, the wind might blow a different direction than what the government demands the wind blow. Okay, so the wind might blow in opposite direction of what the government would want it to blow at. So taxing carbon is de facto taxing everything. Okay, make no mistake, we fork over, and no matter how much money we fork over to the Washington bureaucracy, they will never be able to stop climate change. They're never going to be able to stop it. The climate is always changing, and these people are so painfully incredibly naive. It's just the climate has always, and I mean always, has been changing. And the climate, the earth will die. That's what the Bible says. The earth will pass. And I have yet to really hear a clear definition and a an outline of what this perfect example of utopia they arbitrarily have set in their minds. What is that? Can you describe what kind of utopia you want? Do you want zero carbons? Because that's impossible without humans. Okay, we the breath we breathe, it generates carbon. You're never going to get zero carbon. And I have yet to see evidence that taxing people and taxing people on their existence would do much of anything to prevent things like a snowstorm coming to the Midwest. The left does not care when it comes to little things like, oh, I don't know, the burden of proof. They don't care. And yeah, they're going to try to tax your existence. So I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I've got so much to go through as far as the um, Whitmer teaming up with a potato, a talking potato, to revolutionize higher education. Yes, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She's not a very serious person, because serious people don't talk to potatoes. So I've got that story here coming up next. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Good morning. So, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she's not a very serious person. How do I know that? Serious people don't talk to potatoes. The left already canceled potatoes anyway, so I don't understand why the most powerful person in Michigan is partnering with a starch, because the state will now fund the first 2 years of uh, because the state will now fund the first 2 years of community college. I don't. You guys are going to have to listen to this because this is absolutely insane. They canceled Mr. Potato nationwide. Mr. Potato has been rebranded to just Potato because there was a controversy due to gender labels. So I don't know why Governor Gretchen Whitmer is partnering with Potato because they canceled potatoes. And I don't know why the most powerful person in Michigan is partnering with a potato uh, to try to fund the first 2 years of community college. Does that make sense? No, of course not. But nothing progressives do ever makes sense. But she's partnering with a potato, with an actual potato, to revolutionize higher education. Yes. So Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she plans to urge state lawmakers to pass legislation that would provide free community college tuition to all high school graduates during her sixth State of the State speech. So this is her sixth State of the State speech, and she had that on Wednesday, or last week. Yeah, she had that speech. And Whitmer, she's prioritizing community college access in her annual address. State lawmakers responded by temporarily lowering the minimum age for free tuition from 25 to 21 years old. The Democrat governor now wants to expand the program by removing age requirements for free community college. So everybody gets free community college. So this is what she's doing. And there's this video that she posted on her Twitter account, which is just wacko. So we're going to Mirror is Pritzker and drag. Yeah. They're the exact same. I mean, as soon as Michigan does it, like Illinois is 2 steps behind. What? What is this? I'm so confused. So, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she's not a very serious person because serious people don't talk to potatoes. You guys remember when the left canceled Mr. Potato Head because of the whole controversy around gender labels? So they just call him Potato now. They don't call him Mr. Potato Head. It's because, oh gosh, that's just homophobic or sexist or whatever it is. They canceled things like Aunt Jemima syrup. Now the Land O'Lakes, you can't get the Land O'Lakes Indian on the Land O'Lakes butter. But Mr. Potato Head, who was an American staple and was a very popular toy, probably one of the most recognizable toys in the world, they changed his name and he's no longer Mr. Potato Head, but he's just Potato. Yes. So we know that the left canceled potatoes. So it's unclear to me why, and I don't really understand why the most powerful person in Michigan is partnering with potatoes, uh, because the state is now going to fund 2 years of community college for everybody. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? No, of course it doesn't. But nothing progressives do makes sense. But here she is partnering with a potato to revolutionize higher education. Let's take a listen to the clip. Here we go.
Hey, Governor Whitmer, how's it going?
Hi, Professor Potato. I wanted to share some Yukon Gold news with you, my best spud.
What is it?
We both agree that every Michigander deserves an opportunity to go to college without frying their bank account.
Absolutely. A higher education helps you learn more skills, pursue your passions, and even plant your roots right here in Michigan.
But for too many, college is financially out of reach. That's why I'm so excited to announce an appealing plan.
Oh, I know what you're planning. This year, we will work together to make the first 2 years of community college tuition-free for every high school graduate.
That's right, Professor. Michiganders will save an average of $4,000 as they earn their associate's degree, setting them up to earn a bachelor's or start working and earn a bigger paycheck.
Hey, that isn't small potatoes. That's a big deal.
To learn more, make sure you tune in for my State of the State address on January 24th at 7 p.m.
I'll be there for sure. Later, Tater.
Later, Tater.
Oh, that was painful. Oh, gosh. So Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she's planning to urge state lawmakers to pass legislation that would provide free community college tuition for all high school graduates during her State of the State speech. So I think that she's supposed to be giving it today at some point. But Whitmer, she's prioritized community college access in her annual address last year, and state lawmakers responded by temporarily lowering the minimum age for free tuition from 25 to 21 years old. So the minimum age for free tuition was 25, but they lowered that last year after she gave some sort of speech. And then now, I mean, you fast forward to today, Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she wants the program to be expanded so much to where she removes all of the age requirements for free community college. And so the state is making the first 2 years of community college free for high school graduates. But by the time people graduate high school, they don't tend to get fooled or distracted by talking potatoes. I don't know who she's trying to get with this talking potato video that she put out there and she posted on her X account. But I don't know if this video was meant to grab the attention of kindergartners, then it wouldn't be as bad. But she's trying to target, or this video is meant for literal adults. That's how smart she thinks Michiganders are. That's how smart she thinks residents of Michigan are. She thinks that they are about as smart as a potato. This is disturbing, and this is just who on earth advised that this video would convince high schoolers to attend college. That person has got to be fired. Whoever greenlit this video and said, yes, Gretchen, post it on your X page. What a total clown show. This would not even satisfy a 5-year-old. These people are so incredibly stupid. It's painful. It isn't just small potatoes. It's a game changer. I mean, that's what she wrote on X coupled with this video. My goodness, this is all a joke to them. And the people she serves are nothing more than fools in her eyes. You don't tend to throw talking potatoes in people's faces when you respect them. Okay? I don't think I've ever met anyone in the history of the world, who was convinced to go to college because of a talking potato. Quite frankly, this might have the opposite effect. People might not want to go to college in Michigan because they realize how much disrespect Gretchen Whitmer has for them. But then again, colleges don't tend to make people smarter these days. So who knows? Maybe this potato is more relatable than we realize. I don't know. But wow. That's what she thinks about Michiganders. She thinks that they're about as smart as a potato. Do want to shift gears here. Let's talk about this story coming out of, this one. I want to get to this one. Kamala Harris. Progressives, they often create massive problems and then they magically show up, and they're also the ones tasked with saving the day. So they create the problems and then they come up with these stupid solutions, to the self-imposed crises. And these solutions wind up making everyone worse off. Okay, so when we have de facto open borders and the White House refuses to let states even attempt to stop the influx of incentivized migrants, you get the Biden alien invasion. Okay. And they've created this problem, the alien invasion, the migrant influx. And you can't have progressive problems without progressive solutions. So, our affirmative action picked Vice President Kamala Harris. She said that a pathway to citizenship is how we fix the border crisis. And this border crisis, I want us to keep in mind that this border crisis was 100% preventable from day one. Immigrants come to the United States, you say, turn around, you're not welcome here, come the legal way. You come to the United States the legal way and you get your citizenship the legal way. So, Vice President Kamala Harris called for a meaningful pathway to citizenship on Monday night amid efforts by President Joe Biden and congressional leadership. They're trying to reach a bipartisan national security deal that would fund both the border enforcement and provide military aid to Ukraine. That's why they're having a hard time reaching a deal, because the Republicans are like, look, we want to fund the border. Yeah, we want to fund border patrol agents. We want to get the border under control, but we aren't for military aid packages. So during an interview with CNN, Laura Coates on Monday, Kamala Harris, she discussed the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border because she's the border czar, and she referred to the border as a long-standing problem. For goodness sake, the border has never been this bad. Never. What a total clown show. She's acting as if this border is the status quo and it's been this way for decades. That's not true. It's the Biden administration who caused this problem at the border. She goes on in her interview. She says, there's no question that our immigration system is broken. And then she says, in so much, and so much so that as the first bill that we offered after our inauguration was to fix the immigration system, which included that we must, what we must do to create a pathway for citizenship and put the resources that are needed into the border. But sadly, people on the other side of the aisle have been playing politics with the issue. The solution includes, here we go, putting resources at the border to do what we can to process people effectively and putting in place laws that allow for a meaningful pathway to citizenship. This is an invitation. Kamala Harris is saying, come to the southern border. As long as you make it to the southern border, authorities are going to process you on the way to citizenship. That's about as logical. And here's where the logic is at here, folks. You would not tell someone, hey, you don't have to pay rent, but if you get all the property rights. You know what? You don't have to pay me rent. You get to stay here in this apartment. That's about as logical as telling people not to pay rent and giving them the property rights. But again, that kind of stuff happens in California all the time, so it's not that surprising that this would be her policy and what she wants. None of this makes sense. Since when does showing up grant you citizenship? Just showing up. This used to be something that people worked for. Citizenship used to be something that people worked for. Why not just grant the entire world citizenship at this point? Okay. I mean, like, what is stopping them from just saying, everybody has dual citizenship. If you come to the United States, then you're a citizen. What is stopping them from doing that? That's basically how logical that policy is, the policy that Kamala Harris wants to implement. She's asinine. And we know that policy that she wants to implement is asinine. And really, none of this is surprising. And you shouldn't be surprised by this, because she's a vice president that was not chosen for competency and nothing to do with competency. And she's an extremely incompetent individual, and she has trouble putting sentences together. So it's truly baffling, to say the very least, that we have somebody in office like this, a VP, to get out there and publicly say, hey, we want to put all the resources at the border. If you make it to the border, authorities are going to process you and we're going to give you some citizenship. I mean, at that point, that's essentially the same thing as saying, hey, everybody in the world, worldwide, has citizenship here in the United States. Why don't we just do that? It'd just be cleaner that way. And then we don't have to dedicate all this taxpayer money to Border Patrol agents and to law enforcement trying to, I mean, just don't have a Border Patrol at that point. Just give everybody citizenship. All right. I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Good morning. Hey, smash that like button. Let me know you're watching in the comments section. And we're going to be coming back here shortly, and we'll talk a bit about Zinn. Chuck Schumer is demanding a ban on Zinn, and he has created a powerful new enemy for Democrats. Because I don't think he really understands that this is a voter base. Like, this is a block of voters who are typically inactive, but he's about ready to make them very active. Okay. And here's the thing, there are far more pressing matters to attend to other than Zinn. Okay. Zinn truly is nothing comparatively to things like fentanyl, the fentanyl crisis. So he's just peed off a whole group of voters that already didn't really like the Democrats, and they were probably the least politically active voters of all time. And now I'm willing to bet that these frat boys are going to be coming out in that presidential election because you just made them aware of something. Um, and they are going to show up for the Zins. So we're going to talk about Chuck Schumer and the Zins here on the Morning Buzz. Plus, we'll go ahead and chat about Nikki Haley and the New Hampshire exit polling and what that shows uh, from the primary last night. So go ahead, smash the like button, and we're back. We should play a little game with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, I would love to see her on the show. Are You Smarter Than a 5-Year-Old? Gretchen Whitmer probably would like to see her on Are You Smarter Than a Potato? Because she believes that Michiganders are are not as smart as I mean, that's how much she has such a lack of respect for Michiganders that she thinks that literal adults will be distracted enough by a potato where this potato gets them to go to college for free. Yeah, I don't know who approved that video, but it's disturbing. It's weird. But then again, so is Gretchen Whitmer. So it makes sense. She's not a very serious person. Serious people don't make videos about potatoes or talk to potatoes. Um, I would love to see maybe Kamala Harris play Are You Smarter Than a Potato? All right. So before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about New Hampshire exit polling. That shows majority of Republican voters last night. Exit polling shows that a lot of them weren't Republicans. So here's a clip that explains the numbers comparatively to the 2016 GOP primary in New Hampshire. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
As a Republican? Do you identify as a Democrat, or do you identify as an independent? And here's what we found in this exit poll so far. And I think this jumps right out at you. A minority of voters in this first wave of the exit poll in the Republican primary identify as Republicans. A majority, 53%, identify as either independents, 45%, or, and this is a high number historically, 8% identify as Democrats. For some context here, in 2016, the last competitive Republican primary, presidential primary in New Hampshire, the electorate was 55% Republican. It was 42% independent, and it was 3% Democratic. So in this initial wave, you're seeing some significant differences from 2016. We asked folks coming into the polls, do you identify?
So there you have it. Nikki Haley, she's trying to cheat. She got as many non-Republicans as she could to go vote for her. Only Republican folks should be voting in these Republican primaries. Why? Because Democrats voting, it's just kind of silly. It's a recipe for results that don't actually reflect the GOP. You know, if you want a primary, then go get yourself a primary, Dems. Unfortunately, you guys operate in some sort of weird fascist type way where you guys don't actually have primaries. You have things like super delegates, and you guys don't actually get to pick your nominee like up. And I want to point this out. You know, Donald Trump is so right when he says that the elections are rigged. Okay, and when you've got people arresting people or indicting people for saying that the elections are rigged. It kind of seems like a horrible way to convince people that the elections aren't rigged. Just arresting or indicting, because that's what Jackson did with Donald Trump. That's all this J6 thing really is. It's just indicting for saying that the elections are rigged. And I don't know about you, but it seems like a horrible way to try to convince people that the elections aren't rigged. So, um, yeah, Nikki Haley cheating. Um, and look, the Democrats only cheat, and Nikki Haley is a Democrat. So, yeah. Donald Trump, he won handedly despite this turnout of non-Republicans in the GOP primary. He won with 54% of the vote. She was at 45% of the vote. So, yeah, uh, he did very well. He did very well, and despite this push by Democrats to go out and vote for Nikki Haley. Now, coming up, I do want to chat about Chuck Schumer and about how he is banning Zinn, but I don't know why on earth he would want to ban Zinn, because he is going to create a powerful new enemy for the Democrats in doing this. Why on earth would Chuck Schumer hold this a completely brain dead move? Number one, there's far more pressing issues to attend to, like, oh, I don't know, the fentanyl crisis. Number two, you've just have peeved off an entire group of voters, a group of not very politically active voters, and I think you keep them off enough to where these frat guys that like then might actually show up for a presidential election and vote against you. This might be like a insurrection. So we're gonna chat about it here on the Morning Buzz real quick before I cut break. Rock Jersey Cheese. Pick up a $25 gift card for half the price to Rock Jersey Cheese in normal, locally sourced cheese flavors, blocks and curds. Plus, they have honey and steaks. So, plus they have honey and steaks. Go support your local farm, and this is how you know where your food is coming from. Okay, when you turn the Rock Jersey Cheese over, you're not going to see a laundry list ingredients. You're going to see a few ingredients, and they are a local farm. You can score this deal only at cities99.com. At Steals and Deals, pick up your $25 gift card at Steals and Deals for half the price at cities99.com. Pick up the Steals and Deals. All right, I'm back in just a little bit. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. You can always text me at 309-451-9299. And I've got to tell you guys a little bit about steals and deals. Steals and deals, this is something that we do on cities99.com where you get to steal some deals. Deals like Sugar Mama Bakery. They've got more than just gourmet cupcakes. They've got pies, cakes, and ooh, these big mamas. They're gooey oatmeal cookie sandwiches. They're so good. And you can pick up a $25 gift card. What we do, we slash that and you pay for it like half off. Okay, you get a $25 gift card for half off. So get them before they're gone at cities929.com. Also, we've got Crave Hot Dog, Dogs and Barbecue. Pick up a $20 gift card for just $10 to Crave Hot Dogs and Barbecue. It's on Oakland Avenue in Bloomington, right across from State Farm. Maybe you're working today. Get yourself a hot dog for lunch. They're offering jumbo style hot dog creations, the Chicago dog, they got the chili cheese dog. Check out their complete menu at iwantcrave.com. That's iwantcrave.com. And they even have this thing, it's called a self pour wall where you get to pour yourself a beer and wash down that hot dog. So head to cities929.com, pick up your $20 gift card for $10, for just $10. Okay. Before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about Chuck Schumer. He wants to ban Zyn. And I don't think this guy truly understands that this is going to create a powerful new enemy for the Democrats. But before I get into that story, I want to talk about this guy in Brazil. He's a Brazilian college student. Okay, so partying is not an uncommon experience in college. Okay, for many students, they get into risky situations and they party, party, party. A college student was hit in the head with a rock, or at least he thought it was a rock. He thought wrong. He was shot, and a bullet went into his brain. And he had this bullet in his brain for a total of 4 whole days before he decided to go get things checked out. So he's a Brazilian student. He's 21 years old. And he continued partying for 4 days without realizing he had been shot in the head, and this bullet was lodged in his brain. So his name is Mateus Facio, and he wouldn't let the gunshot wound stop him from partying like any self-respecting college student his age. And the problem here is the Mateus didn't know he was shot, and that this stray bullet was lodged in his head for 4 hungover-inducing days. I mean, 4 hangover-inducing days later, he finally I said, "You know what? I'm gonna get checked out." So on December 31st, Mateus was on a beach, and he wasn't too far from Rio de Janeiro, and he was hit hard in the head, and he said that it was a flying rock and that he heard an explosion, but the bleeding didn't last long and he decided to shower it off and party the night away. The following day, he drove 200 miles to meet his family and his friends, and it took him 7 hours to drive there. And he said that he felt fine during this trip. The real question is here, folks, 200 miles and it took you 7 hours? That's a bit unclear. I'm not too sure how it takes you 7 hours to drive 200 miles. But anyway, on January 3rd, the guy woke up and he was unable to move his arm. He said, "I couldn't really feel my fingers, and I didn't really have the confidence to pick things up." So the neurosurgeon said that there was a part of this bullet that had penetrated his brain, and the bullet had compressed a region of his brain where he started to have involuntary movements of his arm. Just a few millimeters more, and it could have caused some serious damage. That's what the neurosurgeon says. Having your arm paralyzed or even half of your side paralyzed, this was a very, very risky procedure. And the neurosurgeon said, "Hey, in 30 days, he's going to continue to normal life." But I'm looking at this guy's Instagram. He posted a photo on January 2nd, which means that there was a bullet in his head in this post. It's pretty unsettling that this guy on Instagram, like, is posting photos on Instagram, and the guy's got a bullet in his head. So the police are trying to figure out who shot the kid, but chances of them figuring this one out is probably slim to none. Fortunately, he's going to be back to his normal life in just about 30 days. And I'm sure he's going to be back at it in the bars and partying with his classmates, because that's just the type of guy this guy seems to be. But man, he was experiencing like muscle spasms and convulsions after about 4 days. I'm glad he got checked out. And I'm glad he's going to be just fine. But do want to get to this story before we wrap up the segment. Chuck Schumer, he is demanding a ban on Zen. So I don't think he really realizes this, but he's creating a powerful new enemy for the Democrats. The frat guys who love Zen, they're going to show up and they're going to probably vote for Donald Trump because the Democrats are trying to take away their Zen pouches. So Zen has been getting very popular. And really, it was just a matter of time before progressives said, you know what, Americans enjoy Zen. We have to ban it because for everything that Americans for if Americans enjoy something, then there's a progressive out there somewhere who wants to ban it. And Chuck Schumer, he's coming along and he's trying to take your upper deckies away. Uh, and Zen Pouch, to just explain it, because there really isn't a whole lot of marketing when it comes to Zen. It's just kind of a social media thing that guys about 18 years old talk about. But a Zyn pouch is something that you can chew on and you get your nick fix without having to smell like cigarettes or vaping. And I don't really get the Zyn thing, but then again, I was never really a big nicotine gal. I liked tobacco, and I smoked cigarettes, but I really wasn't a big nicotine person. I was more in it for the tobacco, and I chewed a little bit, but um Tucker Carlson, he likes Zen. He's approved. He has the stamp of approval on these things, and not so much Chuck Schumer though. And Chuck Schumer, he's kind of got this proven bigotry against frat guys and the fellas because in 2010, if you guys remember, he actually tried to ban Four Locos. Four Locos is another frat guy thing, another college thing where they drink Four Locos. Four Locos, it's got like a higher alcohol content than like beer. But here he is, Chuck Schumer. I'm going to play this clip talking about how he wants to ban Zyn pouches because they're just dangerous for children and teenagers, and the marketing is so evil. And I'll explain how that's not the case. Here we go.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling for federal action to crack down on a product called Zen. He says the nicotine pouches pose a danger to teens as they use them as an alternative to e-cigarettes.
Pouch packed with problems, high levels of nicotine. So today I'm delivering a warning to parents because these nicotine pouches seem to lock their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and then use the social media to hook them.
Senator Schumer is urging the FTC and the FDA to investigate Zen for concerns relating to marketing and health effects. We reached out to Zen for comment, but have not yet heard back.
Alrighty, so he wants to ban Zen. He says that, you know, their marketing, they have their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and they use social media to hook them. Okay. Of course, this is the Democrat. Think of the children. Think of the children. Even though the Democrat Party, they don't think about the children, especially when it comes to stealing sports scholarships away from young girls, or they don't think about the children when it comes to them being exposed to graphic pedophilia and graphic sexual content in school libraries and school classrooms and public libraries. They don't think about the children when it comes to that. They definitely don't think about the children when it comes to teens getting kicked out of school to make room for illegal immigrants. No. And they definitely don't think about children. The Democrat Party doesn't think about the kids because they're killing the kids when they're 9 months. 9 months in the womb. Okay, so they are not the party of children, and they aren't doing this because of the children. Not to mention that Zen is they are not marketing to teens. Okay, that's just total crap because Zen isn't marketed. That's the beauty of Zen, and that's why it's so popular, is because it's not marketed at all. It's just a bunch of bros over the age of 18 talking about it a lot on social media. And Americans like it, so Democrats have to ban it naturally. And Schumer doesn't realize the enemy he's making here. So there's going to be a Zinsurrection. I'm telling you, you have mobilized a new group of voters who already hate politicians. And they weren't like, I'm trying to figure out why on earth Chuck Schumer would do something like this. Number one, you have far more pressing issues to attend to, specifically fentanyl. specifically drugs that are truly terrible, and Zins are truly nothing comparatively. Let's talk about the fentanyl crisis. Let's talk about the open border policies, the fentanyl pouring in over the border. Let's talk about how I had to go to I went to a laundromat, and I was doing some clothes, some of my sheets, and I look over in the vending machine, there's Narcan. Like, when did we get to a point in society where we're giving out Narcan via vending machine to people? Or is the fentanyl crisis that bad? And yeah, so far more pressing issues to attend to. And not to mention Chuck Schumer, dude, you totally just peeved off a group of voters who already didn't like you. They probably weren't going to vote. They're the least politically active voters of all time. And now I think that I'd say maybe 40% of a fret will vote in a presidential election. Now that you've made them aware that you are trying to ban their Zins. So I don't know why Chuck is all upset about this now and why he's calling for a ban now. The only possible explanation that I can come up with is maybe he found a pack of Zins in his grandkid's room and now he's taking it out on America, which is just a disgusting way to govern. But anyway, I'm hoping that somebody confronts Joe Biden on the campaign trail about this, and they get him to comment on these insurrection, and how these frat guys are going to probably start to protest, and they're going to make these mostly peaceful 2020 BLM riots look like child's play. All right, I'm back next on the Buzz. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be back talking a little bit about the Joliet man who killed all these people. And I am willing to bet that the mainstream media is going to let this story just fizzle away because it doesn't fit their narrative. This guy, true scumbag, he was wanted for questioning in the shooting deaths of 8 people in the Joliet area, and he killed himself in Texas. I'll bring you that story. Plus, did you know that swatting calls have become uh, there is an increasing trend when it comes to swatting calls, specifically here in the state of Illinois. In 2023, the ISP reported 181 swatting instances, and in 2022, there were 59. Okay, so there's probably way more than this because they actually get data that's reported from public safety organizations, and the cops might not report it to the Illinois State Police Statewide Terrorism and Intelligence Center. So we're going to talk about that here on the Buzz. Smash the like button. Couple of things I want to hit this morning. Illinois swatting calls are up. You can go read the story on cities99.com. But the increasing trend of swatting, faking these dangerous crimes that cause the police to go respond with force to a victim's home. You know, I spoke with criminologist Curry Myers, and he said that these acts, these crimes, should be considered acts of domestic terrorism. Now, here's a couple of numbers I just want to throw your way. Now, these are not in any way like comprehensive. These are just numbers given to the Illinois State Wide Terrorism and Intelligence Center. It's the Illinois State Police. They track swatting calls that are reported from public safety organizations. There are likely way more swatting calls. They're just never reported. So the 2023 data shows swatting calls have increased threefold since 2022. And the ISP, they got 181 swatting instances reported in 2023. Now in 2022, there were 59. Okay, so in 2021, there were 19. So, Myers, the important thing to note here, folks, it might not just be somebody sitting in their basement at their parents' house doing some sort of prank call. This could be targeted even by governments that don't agree with the United States. So, you know, we've got an open border. If somebody comes in and they are a Chinese nationalist and they want to cause a scene, like really, this should be classified as some sort of domestic terrorism. If they want to cause a scene and get the FBI or get the law enforcement to respond, then you know, shoot all of the cops in this massive, you know, act, then in this massive swatting act, then they can do that. Now, the federal government has a law against swatting. It's a felony. However, Curry Myers, the criminologist, said the FBI doesn't have the resources to go out and investigate this large number of swatting instances that have occurred across the nation. So this is a big issue. Yesterday, I told you a little bit about the guy in Joliet. He wound up killing himself in Texas. He shot himself with a handgun. He was wanted for questioning in the shooting deaths of 8 people in the Joliet area. His name was Romeo Nance, age 23. He died by suicide after he was confronted by U.S. Marshals on Monday. So he was wanted in connection with those deaths of 7 people. And the media, because of his race, they are going to keep this story under wrap. This story is going to die. He killed 8 people, and now the story is just going to go away. I'm telling you right now, the mainstream media will not continue to talk about Romeo Nance, but I will. I won't forget. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. I love you. We'll do it all again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929.